A tired woman stood outside a small store as the cold air pressed against her thin clothes and hunger tightened in her chest. Her eyes fixed on the ground because shame felt heavier than the empty bag in her hands. Inside the store, warm lights glowed and people moved freely, but she had just turned away after realizing her coins were not enough to buy even a simple meal. She tried to walk past the door as if nothing had happened, yet every step felt slow and painful. At that moment, a cowboy standing nearby noticed the way her shoulders slumped and how she wiped her eyes when she thought no one was watching. He had seen many hard days in his life, but something about her silence stopped him cold. As she reached the edge of the street, ready to disappear into the night hungry and alone, the cowboy spoke words she never expected to hear, words that would change how this night would end. She was a quiet woman who moved through the town like a shadow, carrying invisible pain that no one asked about and no one tried to see. Every morning, she woke up with hope that faded by evening, and every night, she slept with hunger whispering in her stomach. Her hands were empty, but her heart was heavier than most people could imagine. She avoided eye contact because she was tired of silent judgment and tired of pretending she was fine. People passed her on the same streets every day, seeing only her worn clothes and slow steps, never the strength it took for her to keep going. She had learned to smile softly and stay out of the way, believing her struggle was her own burden to carry. Inside her, fear and dignity fought constantly, and dignity often won, even when it meant walking away hungry. She did not beg, she did not complain, and she never asked for help, even when she needed it the most. She stepped inside the small store with careful movements, aware of every sound around her, feeling the warmth of the room clash painfully with the emptiness inside her body as she reached into her pocket and slowly poured her coins into her palm. Her fingers trembled while she counted them once, then again, hoping the number would somehow change if she tried hard enough. But the total stayed cruelly the same. She looked at the shelves lined with bread, rice, and simple meals, imagining the comfort they could bring, yet knowing each item was just beyond her reach. The cashier glanced at her briefly, not with anger but with impatience, and that single look made her chest tighten. She could feel other customers behind her, shifting their weight, waiting, watching, silently judging. Her face grew warm as shame crept up her neck, and she lowered her eyes, pretending to check the coins again even though she already knew the truth. For a moment, she considered asking if she could take something cheaper, something smaller, anything at all, but the words refused to leave her mouth. Pride held her back, stronger than hunger, stronger than fear. She remembered past days when asking for help had cost her more than it gave, and she could not bear that feeling again. Slowly, she gathered the coins back into her pocket, each soft clink sounding louder than it should have, like the store itself was announcing her failure. The cashier waited in silence, then turned slightly, already moving on, and that quiet dismissal hurt more than harsh words ever could. She nodded faintly, as if apologizing for taking up space, and stepped away from the counter. Her legs felt heavy as she walked toward the door, passing shelves she could not afford to touch, breathing in the smell of food that made her stomach ache even more. With every step, humiliation pressed down on her, but she kept her head lowered, refusing to let anyone see tears forming in her eyes. Reaching the door, she paused for half a second, not because she expected help, but because leaving meant accepting the night exactly as it was, cold, empty, and unforgiving. She chose hunger over humiliation, believing it was the only choice left to her. As she pushed the door open and stepped back into the dim street, the noise of the store faded behind her, replaced by the quiet weight of the town after sunset. She pulled her coat tighter around herself and started walking, telling her heart to stay strong just a little longer, unaware that someone nearby had noticed everything and that this moment of rejection was about to lead her into a night she would never forget. She walked a few steps away from the store, her shoulders tight and her pace slow, trying to steady her breathing as the night air brushed her face. And she did not know that the cowboy leaning near the wooden post had been watching her, quietly the entire time. He noticed how she paused just outside the door, how her hand stayed on the handle longer than needed, as if leaving had taken more strength than entering. When she finally moved forward, he saw the way her feet dragged slightly, not from tired legs but from a tired spirit, and that silent weight caught his attention. He had seen struggle before, seen pride and pain mix in people who learned to survive without asking. And the look in her eyes matched that memory too well. She kept her head down, yet her posture spoke loudly, revealing sadness she tried hard to hide. And the cowboy felt something tighten in his chest as she passed under the dim streetlight. He did not hear her voice or know her story, but her silence told him enough to pause and watch instead of turning away. As she crossed the street, her hands stayed clenched inside her sleeves, as if holding on to dignity was the only warmth she had left. And the cowboy noticed that she never once looked back at the store, not even with longing, because hope had already been pushed aside. He followed her movement with calm eyes, seeing strength in the way she kept walking even when the night seemed too large for her small figure. Most people missed such details, but he did not, because life had taught him to read what was not spoken. He saw how she wiped her face quickly, thinking no one was watching, and how she straightened her back right after, refusing to let weakness win. That moment told him everything, and he knew she was not someone looking for pity, but someone fighting to stay standing. The cowboy shifted his weight and took a slow breath, unsure why this stranger mattered so much to him, yet unable to ignore the pull he felt. He told himself to mind his own business, reminded himself that everyone carried burdens, but his feet did not move away. Instead, he watched her reach the edge of the street, where the light faded and shadows grew deeper, and he sensed that if she kept going alone, the night would swallow her whole. Her courage impressed him, but it also worried him, because strength like hers often broke quietly. He thought about the way she had walked out empty-handed, about the pride that must have guided that choice, and he understood it too well. As she stepped farther from the store, the distance between them shrinking without her knowing, the cowboy made a decision that felt sudden yet long overdue. He did not rush or shout, because he did not want to scare her, but he prepared to speak, knowing that one moment of attention could change the path she was walking, even if she did not realize it yet. He took a step forward and spoke in a calm voice that carried warmth rather than command, and when his words reached her ears, she froze as if the night itself had called her name. She turned slowly, unsure if she had heard correctly, her eyes lifting with caution as she faced him under the dim light. The cowboy kept his distance, hands visible, posture relaxed, making sure she did not feel trapped or pressured. "Come with me. I'll fill your table tonight," he said gently, not loudly, not proudly, but with quiet certainty that felt unfamiliar to her. The sentence hung in the air, simple yet powerful, and for a moment she could not move or speak. Kindness had not found her in a long time, and when it finally appeared, it felt almost unreal. Her first instinct was fear, because hope had disappointed her before, and promises often came with hidden costs. She studied his face, searching for signs of mockery or pity, but found none, only patience and respect. Her heart began to race, torn between the need to protect herself and the deep hunger that had ruled her day. She wanted to say no out of habit, to thank him and walk away with pride intact, yet her feet stayed rooted to the ground. The cowboy did not rush her or repeat himself, understanding that trust could not be forced, especially on a night like this. Silence stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable, and she felt something inside her soften despite her effort to stay guarded. She swallowed hard, realizing that no one had offered her anything without asking for something in return for far too long. The street felt quieter, as if the world had paused to watch her choose. She glanced down briefly, then back up, her voice caught somewhere between caution and relief as she asked a simple question with trembling honesty. He answered calmly, explaining without details, without excuses, making it clear that his offer came with no demands attached. That clarity shook her more than grand words ever could. She felt tears threaten again, but this time she did not hide them as quickly, because the moment felt safe enough to breathe. Slowly, she nodded, still unsure, still afraid, yet willing to take one step toward something different. The cowboy acknowledged her decision with a small respectful nod, turning slightly to lead without assuming she would follow. When she walked beside him, the space between them felt balanced, not unequal, and for the first time that night her steps felt lighter. She did not know where he was taking her or how the evening would end, but she knew one thing with certainty as they moved forward together. This unexpected kindness had already changed the weight she carried, and the night no longer felt quite as cold as it once had. She walked beside him for a few steps, then slowed again as doubt crept back into her thoughts, her mind warning her to be careful even while her heart wanted to believe. Every instinct built from past disappointments urged her to stop, to turn around before hope could hurt her again, and she felt her chest tighten as fear whispered that kindness never came without a price. The street stretched ahead, quiet and dim, and each step felt like a question she was not sure she was ready to answer. She glanced at him from the corner of her eye, studying the calm way he walked, the steady rhythm of his pace, and the patience in his silence. He did not look back to check if she followed, as if he trusted her choice completely, and that simple act unsettled her more than pressure ever could. Her hands shook slightly as she clenched them together, reminding herself that she did not owe anyone anything, not even belief. She thought about how easy it would be to stop now, to thank him politely, and walk away before the moment grew larger, yet something deeper held her in place. His voice echoed in her memory, not loud or convincing, but sincere, and she realized how rare it was to hear words that carried no urgency or control. Fear told her to protect herself, while hope asked her to take one small risk, and the battle between them left her breath shallow. She had survived by relying only on herself for so long that trusting someone else felt dangerous, almost reckless. Still, she noticed how he slowed his steps slightly, matching her hesitation without drawing attention to it, and that quiet understanding made her eyes sting. She remembered nights spent alone, meals skipped without complaint, and the pride that kept her standing even when she felt invisible. Those memories reminded her that strength had already carried her this far, and maybe strength could also allow her to accept help. She lifted her head a little, letting herself look forward instead of down, and felt the weight on her shoulders ease just enough to breathe fully. Her fear did not disappear, but it softened, leaving room for a fragile trust to form. She realized that courage did not always mean walking alone. Sometimes it meant choosing not to. With a slow exhale, she matched his pace again, this time without hesitation, allowing herself to move forward fully. The sound of their footsteps blended together, steady and even, and for the first time that night, she felt less like she was being pulled by desperation and more like she was making a decision of her own. She did not know what waited ahead or how long this feeling would last, but she knew she had chosen to trust her instinct instead of her fear, and that single choice marked a quiet turning point she would remember long after the night had passed. They reached a small wooden house, where warm lights spilled through the window, and as she stepped inside, the smell of cooked food wrapped around her like a gentle promise she had almost forgotten. He moved quietly, placing simple dishes on the table without ceremony, treating the moment as something natural rather than charity, and that subtle respect settled her nerves more than words ever could. She sat slowly, hands resting in her lap, unsure if she should speak or wait, while he set a plate in front of her with steady care. The food was modest, yet to her it looked like abundance, not because of its quantity, but because it was offered without judgment. When she took her first bite, warmth spread through her body, easing the sharp ache that hunger had carved into her chest, and she felt tears rise again, this time without shame. He did not stare or comment, allowing her the dignity of the moment, and that silence felt like kindness in its purest form. As she continued eating, her shoulders relaxed, her breathing slowed, and the tight knot inside her began to loosen, replaced by a feeling she had not known for a long time. The table held more than food. It held safety, patience, and the quiet message that she mattered. She noticed small details, the clean cloth, the careful placement of utensils, the way he waited until she was comfortable before sitting across from her, and each detail spoke of respect. With every bite, she felt herself returning, piece by piece, to a version of herself that existed before struggle took over her life. She realized how long it had been since someone had shared space with her without expecting explanation or apology. The room felt warm, not just from the meal, but from the absence of fear, and that warmth settled deep within her. She lifted her eyes briefly and met his gaze, finding no pride there, only quiet understanding, and she nodded softly in gratitude she did not yet have words for. He responded with a small smile, then looked away, giving her space to simply exist without obligation. In that simple exchange, something healed, something fragile yet powerful. She finished her meal slowly, savoring not just the taste but the feeling of being allowed to take her time. When she finally leaned back, full and steady, she felt a sense of dignity return, one she thought hunger had stolen from her forever. The night outside remained cold, the world unchanged. Yet inside that small room she felt human again, seen without being questioned, respected without being tested, and valued without conditions. She understood then that kindness could be quiet, that help could be given without noise, and that sometimes one table, shared in silence, could restore a broken sense of worth more deeply than words ever could. She finished her meal with a quiet heart, feeling a strength she had not felt in months. And when she looked up, the cowboy was already standing by the door, ready to leave without making her feel indebted. She tried to speak, to thank him, but the words stuck in her throat because gratitude felt too small for what she had received. He simply nodded, as if the night had already been repaid, and stepped outside into the darkness, leaving her with the warmth still lingering in the room. She watched him disappear into the street, wondering if he would ever know how much his simple act had changed her life. The hunger inside her was gone, but a new feeling remained, one she had forgotten existed: hope. She realized that even in a world full of harshness, there were still strangers who could offer light without asking for anything in return, and that thought stayed with her long after the door closed, echoing in her heart whenever she felt alone again.